Good morning, everyone. My name is Dan Stewart, and I'm the Student and Discipleship Pastor here at First Baptist Church of Lorena, and I'm glad that you've decided to join us this morning. However, I do want to start on kind of a sour note, but honestly, it's a real note, and it's something that I truly feel. 2020 has not gone according to plan. Not at all. Now, as we're getting to the end of July and we're getting where summer is almost over, we were supposed to have already gone on a summer camp in June, a mission trip in July. We were supposed to have all these fun events that were happening, but none of them happened. And as we stand in the midst of this pandemic, we're not even sure what the next few weeks are going to look like, much less the school year. And unfortunately, I'm supposed to be here today teaching you in person, but I'm not. Things have not gone according to plan at all. And if you're like me, you just want things to go according to plan. We like to have things mapped out. We like to know what's happening. But here we are with summer camp, mission trip, VBS, all summer events either canceled or postponed. And instead of talking to you in person, I'm talking to a camera right now. I'm talking to a little red light. Things have not gone according to plan at all. But how do you feel during this time? Do you feel the same way? Are you like me, where when things don't go according to plan, you kind of get antsy, you get nervous, and you just want things to get back how they're supposed to be? 2020 has not gone according to plan at all. But the thing is, church, this is not the first time in history that things haven't gone according to plan. And if we are going to learn how to step into a future that's uncertain, if we're stepping into this world of chaos and trying to figure out what to do, we need to look at moments of chaos in the past. And we need to see how the church and how people back then dealt with a world of chaos as well. So today what I want to start with is I want to start with a little history lesson. And I want to tell you about this guy right here. His name is Martin Luther. Martin Luther was a professor, pastor, and theologian during the 16th century in Germany. But what he's most famous for is for nailing his 99 Theses on the door of the All Saints Church in Wittenberg in 1517. Many people believe that this was the actual start of the Protestant Reformation. What he was doing is he was so upset with the Roman Catholic Church and some of the things that they were doing that he literally wrote his grievances and nailed it to the door. And he was protesting what the Catholic Church was doing. Now, if you're new with us, FBC Lorena here, we are a Protestant church. We owe a lot to this guy, Martin Luther. But Martin Luther's life didn't go according to plan either. He said some things that were pretty blasphemous to the Roman Catholic Church at the time. Honestly, things that you and I would say, but we kind of take for granted. He said stuff like this: forgiveness was God's to grant. Forgiveness wasn't given through the selling of indulgences. We kind of feel like that's pretty normal, right, as Protestants? He also said this: authority came from Scripture, not from the Pope. At this time in the 1500s, this was a big deal. And it was such a big deal that in 1521, he found himself completely excommunicated from the Roman Catholic Church. So much so that he was now an outlaw. And anyone, literally anyone, was permitted to kill Luther on sight without any consequences. Can you believe that? And then over the next 8 years, his life didn't go according to plan either. He was hiding in exile for a time. He was trying to figure out how to start a new church outside of the Roman Catholic Church. They also had a pandemic during that time called the bubonic plague that came and swept through his town. But anytime he was overwhelmed, he would turn to his friend Philip, and he would say, "Hey, Philip, let's sing Psalm 46 together." He loved Psalm 46. He was all about Psalm 46, so much so that in 1929, he wrote his own hymn from the words of Psalm 46. And it's a hymn that we still sing today. It's what Heath sang during the sermon intro video. It's "A mighty fortress is our God." This comes from Psalm 46. Now here's the thing. Over the last few weeks, we have been going through the book of Psalms. We've been reading, we've been talking about it. It's even been in our Bible reading plan called Route 66. And we've been seeing how all of the Psalms fit together, how they worship God, but how they also teach us good theology about God. And throughout this entire series, we've been saying this, that God's giving me a song I can sing. Because we know that the Psalms are a collection of poems and songs that we too, in 2020, can sing to God, even though they were written so long ago. And today, as I'm sure you figured out, we're going to be looking at Psalm 46, a psalm that Martin Luther would sing with his friend. Now, I hope you'll find a Bible with me, and I hope you'll turn to Psalm 46. We're going to be reading it in just a second. But as you turn to it, I want us to first look at the superscription, the very beginning of Psalm 46. And it says this: "For the director of music of the sons of Korah." It starts with "for the director of music." So, like I said earlier, while we know that some psalms were poetry, this song was actually a song. And this is a song that we can sing. And one thing that says is that it is from the sons of Korah. Now, to be fair, we don't know a whole lot about the sons of Korah, but what we do know is that the Korahites were from the tribe of Levi. And so the sons of Korah were most likely Levitical priests who would lead the people, the Hebrews, in liturgical worship. So this song was most likely sung by all of the Hebrews during the time of David and Solomon. But this wasn't meant to be an individual psalm. This was meant to be communal for all the people of God to sing together. So let's go ahead and open up our Bible and let's read the text, Psalm 46. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, and the mountains quake with their surging. Selah. Let's go ahead and stop right there. Now, the word Selah here is really a mystery for us today. If you meet anybody who says, "You know what, I know the exact definition of Selah," they're lying. We have no idea. It's really, really hard to define what Selah means. But we do know that it's used as a pause in this psalm. We know that it's a break in between sections. So in this psalm, whenever we see Selah, we stop, because we're about to go on to the next section. But here's the thing, y'all. What a beautiful way for this psalm to start, right? God is our refuge and our strength. He's the refuge and strength for the songwriter, an ever-present help in time of need. How beautiful is that? God is a safe haven, a safe harbor, the safest place you can go when you are in trouble. What an incredible God. But as I read this first section, I can't help but ask, what exactly is God saving this psalmist from? The answer to that question is found in the imagery of this psalm. We see some incredible imagery in this first section. We see the earth giving way. We see the mountains falling into the sea. We see the waters roaring and foaming. What is happening here? Now, here's the thing. In most Hebrew imagery, the sea is a sign of chaos. It's a sign of brokenness. And it's a sign of death. So when we look at this imagery, we literally see the world falling into the sea, breaking off and falling into chaos. The psalmist wants us to see that the world is breaking down and literally slipping into chaos. But in the midst of that, the psalmist is saying this: in a broken world, God is our refuge and strength. When the world is breaking and falling into chaos, he's saying that things are going wrong all over our world. But God is our refuge in this time. Y'all, I'll be honest, this is a message that I think we desperately need to hear today. In 2020, it seems like the world all around us is breaking apart. We're in the middle of a global pandemic right now. But then we have hurricanes. We have national disasters, natural disasters. We're constantly reminded that our world is broken. But church, now, more than ever, God is our refuge and strength. So I ask you right now, as you're watching this, when you're in trouble, when you see the world breaking down, is God your refuge and your strength? Or do you run elsewhere? Think about that as we continue. Let's go ahead and go back to our passage, and we are going to start in verse 4. And then we're going to stop again when we see the next Selah. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy place where the Most High dwells. God is within her. She will not fall. God will help her at break of day. Nations are in uproar. Kingdoms fall. He lifts his voice. The earth melts. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Do you ever think about God being with you? Sure, as Christians, we worship God and we come to church and we praise God, but do you ever think about God being with you? Unfortunately, loneliness is at an all-time high if we look around. When you look at the internet, we should be more connected than ever, right? But in an age of social media, someone can literally have thousands of friends and followers and yet still feel completely alone. We have students as well as adults try to paint the best picture of themselves on an online profile, but yet they feel like they have no friends to turn to when they're in trouble. In 2020, in America, unfortunately, loneliness is at an all-time high. Do you believe me? In 2020 alone, first off, I'm going to share some statistics right now that honestly made me cry this week. It's so incredibly sad. In 2020, this year, there is an average of 132 Americans who commit suicide every single day. So far in 2020, there are already over 48,000 suicides in America alone. And suicide is the second leading cause of death in people from ages 10 to 35. What awful statistics. Listen to me, people. Don't take for granted that God is with you. People of God, you are not alone. God truly is with you. And that's the theme of this entire second section. And it says this, that in the midst of chaos, God is with you. And I love how the psalmist here describes God here. He gives him a name that we first see in Genesis 14. And I'm going to nerd out for a little bit, so bear with me, but it's this. It's El Elyon. And it means the God Most High. And as the psalmist is using this, what he's saying is God is sovereign over all. He's bigger than any brokenness. He's bigger than any chaos. He's bigger than any universe. He is God Most High. And yet the God Most High is still with you. How incredible is our God that we serve. Let's go ahead and go back to our passage and let's finish it out. It's going to be verses 8 through 11. Come and see what the Lord has done, the desolations he has brought on the earth. He makes wars cease to the ends of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the shields with fire. He says, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress." So in the previous sections, we've seen that God is bigger than the brokenness of the world. But in this section, we see that God is bigger than the brokenness of mankind. Honestly, today, the brokenness of mankind has never been more clear. Good grief, just turn on Facebook. Look at some comments of statuses. You'll see sins of man on full display. If we're honest and we look at our world, we see injustices all over our world. We see sex trafficking. We still see slavery. We see civil wars. We see refugees without homes. We see greed. We see lust for power. We see relativism. We see selfishness, racism, white supremacy. We even see politicizing a virus. Mankind certainly is broken. But what are the people of God supposed to do? How are we supposed to fix this? How are we supposed to fix all this? Church, if you don't hear anything else from me, I hope that you hear this. And this is our take-home for today. God says, "Be still and know that I am God." God says, "Be still and know that I am God." Now, I don't know about you, but anytime I hear this, I feel peace inside. Just from these words. Just the idea that God is telling me, "Be still and know that I am God." But what does it mean to be still? How are we supposed to be still and know that God is God? What exactly does that mean? I love how C. Hassel Bullock puts it. It's going to be on the screen, and it says this: "It is not a call to a quiet and serene lifestyle, but a summons to stop fighting the Lord's battles for him. Stop trying to be God and let God be God. It is a summons to surrender, not to our enemies, but to God, and to let God himself build his kingdom." Church, to be still is to surrender to God, to put your faith, hope, and peace in him. Why? Because he will never let his people fall. This promise in Psalm 46 is what Martin Luther held to when it felt like his world was completely falling apart. His world would continue to fall apart throughout the rest of his life, honestly. Throughout the rest of his life, the Roman Catholic Church would seek out Protestants, just like him. And they would either force them into exile or they would put them to death. And as many of these Protestants were marching to their deaths, they would sing Psalm 46. This happened so many times that this psalm became known as the battle hymn of the Reformation. How cool is that? This psalm was so important to them because when all seemed lost, it was a great reminder that God is in control. And church, if this season has taught me anything, it's a reminder that I am not in control. If it were up to me, this summer would have gone according to plan. If it were up to me, we would have gone on mission trip. We would have gone to summer camp. This summer would have looked so much different. We wouldn't have this virus at all if it were up to me. Everything would have gone according to plan. But I don't have control. I don't have control over a global pandemic. I don't have control over a broken world. I don't have control over a broken mankind. but I know who does have control. And that is El Elyon, the God Most High, who is with us today.